Why birds don't get electrocuted on power lines. A bird drops out of the sky and lands on a wire carrying enough electricity to brighten an entire neighborhood, run heavy machines inside a factory, or stop a human heart in a fraction of a second. Its tiny feet wrap around the metal. Its light body settles above the street. And then, nothing. No spark, no smoke, no sudden flash. No bird falling from the wire. The very same line that could be deadly to a person becomes, for that bird, a quiet resting place between flights. It feels impossible at first, but the reason is not luck. It is one of electricity's strangest and most important rules, sitting in plain sight above our heads every day. The story begins long before modern cities were covered in power lines. It begins in the 1800s, when electricity was still making the slow, strange journey from scientific curiosity to part of everyday life. Before electric lights filled streets and homes, there were telegraph wires. They stretched across roads, fields, rivers, and railroad routes like thin, dark threads pulling distant places closer together. Messages that once took days to travel by horse or train could suddenly move through wire in moments. These early lines were not carrying the same kind of power that later electric grids would carry, but they still changed the landscape. For the first time, humans had filled the open sky with long, raised metal lines, and birds found them almost immediately. To a bird, the wire was not a machine. It was not a warning. It was simply a branch without bark, a branch without leaves, a branch placed exactly where a bird might want one. It was high enough to feel safe. It was narrow enough for small feet to grip. It often crossed open spaces where a bird could watch insects, fields, rooftops, and passing movement below. Sparrows, swallows, pigeons, crows, and countless other birds began using these human-made lines as if they were natural parts of the world, as if they had grown there. Then electric lighting arrived and changed everything again. In 1882, Thomas Edison's Pearl Street station began supplying electricity in Lower Manhattan. Streets and buildings that had once depended on candles, oil lamps, and gaslight started glowing with something new. Electricity was no longer only a laboratory wonder. It was entering public life. Soon, electric systems spread outward from city centres. Overhead wires became part of the view. Streets gained poles. Neighbourhoods gained cables. Farms, towns, and factories were gradually tied into networks of current. And still, the birds kept landing. At first, it almost looked like a magic trick. People already knew electricity could be dangerous. They knew it could shock, burn, injure, and kill. They saw workers handle wires carefully. They saw storms bring lines down and turn ordinary streets into places of danger. Yet there the birds were, perched on those same wires as calmly as if they were sitting on a fence rail, sometimes lined up in long rows like dark notes written across the sky. The answer comes down to one simple idea, but it is powerful enough to explain the whole mystery. Electricity does not only need voltage, it needs a path. Electric current moves when there is a difference in electric potential between 2 points. In everyday language, electricity needs somewhere to go. It is not enough for something to touch a charged wire. For a strong current to pass through a body, electricity has to enter in one place and leave through another. There must be a route. There must be a complete circuit. There must be a way for energy to move from a higher electrical potential to a lower one. A bird sitting on a single power line is touching almost the same electrical point with both feet. One foot is not at a dramatically different voltage from the other. Its body is not giving electricity an easy shortcut down to the ground, so almost no current moves through it. The wire is still the better route. The metal conductor remains the easier path. The bird, for that moment, stays safe. Think of it like standing on a small, floating platform in the middle of a fast-moving river. Water may be rushing underneath you, powerful enough to carry logs, stones, and debris downstream. But unless that water has a path through your body, you are not swept away by it. You are near the movement, but you are not part of the movement. With electricity, the danger is not simply being close. The danger begins when your body becomes part of the route. This is where the early development of power systems becomes so important. As electric grids expanded, engineers learned that electricity had to be guided, separated, and controlled. Live wires had to be kept away from the earth. They had to be kept away from other wires. Wooden poles lifted conductors above roads and sidewalks. Glass and porcelain insulators kept wires from leaking current into the poles. Crossarms spread different lines apart. Every detail had a purpose. Every gap, every insulator, every raised wire was part of the same goal: keep electricity moving only where it was supposed to move. Birds benefited from that spacing, even though the system was never built for them. A small bird perched on one wire usually touches only that one wire. Its wings are folded against its body. Its feet are close together. It does not stretch from one conductor to another. It does not touch the pole, the transformer, the metal hardware, or the ground. The bird is not safe because electricity somehow respects it. The bird is not safe because feathers have some secret protection. It is safe because electricity has no strong reason to leave the wire and push through the bird's body. But the rule can change in an instant. If the bird touches two different electrical points at the same time, the calm scene can become deadly. If one wing brushes a second wire carrying a different voltage, the bird can turn into a bridge between the two. If a large bird touches a live wire and a grounded metal part at the same time, current can rush through its body. This is why eagles, hawks, vultures, owls, and other large birds face greater danger around certain power structures. Their wingspans are wide. Their bodies can reach across gaps that smaller birds never come close to touching. That is the hidden twist inside the familiar image. Birds are not naturally immune to electricity. They are not magical creatures sitting above danger without consequence. They are simply landing in a way that follows the geometry of a circuit. They do not understand the physics, but their small bodies, folded wings, and narrow stance often keep them from completing the dangerous path. The transformation era arrived when electricity stopped being a novelty and became a public necessity. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, electric power was no longer limited to a few wealthy streets, experimental stations, or dramatic demonstrations. It moved into factories, streetcars, homes, farms, workshops, and radio systems. Alternating current made it possible to send electricity over long distances at high voltages. Power lines became taller. Substations appeared. Transformers stepped voltage up for transmission and stepped it back down for ordinary use. The landscape itself became electrical. With that growth came accidents, and those accidents taught hard lessons. Linemen learned that survival depended on insulation, distance, grounding, and discipline. A hand on one object and a foot on another could be enough to complete a deadly circuit. A metal tool could turn into a bridge. Wet ground could make everything worse. A ladder leaned in the wrong place could become part of the system. Even the human body, soft and ordinary, could suddenly behave like a wire. Scientists and engineers studied how current passed through living tissue. They learned that danger was not only about the presence of electricity. It depended on how much current flowed, where it traveled through the body, and how long the contact lasted. A small current through the wrong path could be far more dangerous than people expected. The heart was especially vulnerable when electricity crossed the chest because even a brief disruption could interfere with its rhythm. This made the bird mystery clearer than ever. A perched bird may be sitting on a conductor carrying high voltage, but if both feet are at nearly the same voltage, there is no strong electrical push driving current through its heart. The bird and the wire rise together electrically. The bird is not connected to the lower voltage world below. It is not reaching down toward the earth. It is not offering a doorway for the current to escape. Modern power lines are still designed around these same principles. The bare metal wires above streets are often not insulated like the cords inside a house. They rely on air, height, spacing, and insulators. Air, under normal conditions, does not conduct electricity well, so distance matters. The space between wires matters. Porcelain, glass, or polymer insulators stop current from leaking into poles and towers. Ground wires and protective devices help redirect lightning strikes, faults, and dangerous surges away from where they can do the most damage. The modern bird on a wire is living inside that carefully engineered spacing. But the danger can return in a split second. Rain, damaged equipment, poor spacing, or a larger body can change everything. A squirrel crossing onto a transformer, a snake touching a live part and a grounded part, or a large bird spreading its wings near two electrical points can suddenly complete the path. That is why utilities add covers, perch guards, and redesigned pole hardware. voltage alone is not the whole story. Electricity becomes dangerous when it finds a way through. So the bird on the power line is not a miracle of nature-defeating technology. It is a small, living demonstration of circuit theory. The wire carries the current. The bird shares the wire's electrical level. The ground remains far below. No path is completed. No dangerous flow begins. And that is why, above traffic, rooftops, fields, sidewalks, and glowing cities, birds can gather calmly on the same lines that humans are taught never to touch. They are not escaping electricity. They are not immune to it. They are simply resting in the one place where electricity has no reason to pass through them. Current only becomes dangerous when it finds a way through.